a tribute to Ronnie Millsap, featuring performances by Kelly Clarkson, Little Big Town, Parker McCullum, Scotty McCreery, Justin Moore, Tracy Lawrence, and more than 30 guest artists. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster. A tribute to Ronnie Millsap, the final Nashville show. One night only, October 3rd, Bridgestone Arena. Produced by Outback Presents.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No. We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our client's best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Play action on first down, and Barnes looking downfield, takes his shot, launches for money. Parks, who catches it in stride. What a start for Barnes on the offense. 70 yards on the opening play. That's how you build confidence for your teammates.
Like I say, let's just come on out and manage the game. Cam Rising is fired up for him. First play of the 2023 season.
2nd and 8. Johnson keeps it, delayed, and then accelerates. All the way to the end zone. Nate Johnson, change of pace, and it's a fast pace. And the Utahs take advantage of that penalty and pad their lead, a 27-yard sprint.
There you go. That happened last night. If you lived in Nashville, chances are, and you had cable television, you were able to watch that. But not if you lived outside of Nashville and you have Spectrum Cable, which used to be Time Warner. Because last night at the beginning of the Utah-Texas game, Ian, did you see this?
Just like the whole snafu?
Yes.
Yeah.
Spectrum, ESPN went dark. I guess they had like a carrier dispute.
Sounds like it. Yep.
ESPN. Okay, so they had a carrier dispute. And when it happens, that is it for these sports leagues. What's happened is for years, sports leagues and teams have made money off of people that don't watch sports. And it's become more contentious than ever with the carrier fees, which is all a bunch of inside baseball. But the truth is, when the drop in coverage happens, is always the most important part. So the NFL lost its deal with Comcast after the draft before the summer. So there wasn't really any enticing NFL content. So a lot of people surmised that the league ended up doing the deal on the Peacock game in order to get Comcast to pick up NFL Network so they could make all that money over the summer that they would lose by nobody having NFL Network and nobody really noticing. In this case, Spectrum, they're the ones who look like the dodos because fans don't care about where the negotiation is between ESPN and Spectrum. They just want to watch the freaking game. And so I even heard Caroline talking about her parents and how they've signed up for YouTube TV. And I mean, you know, today they were talking about what all do you have to subscribe to in order to be able to get everything. And I'm like, it's a lot of stuff. I mean, I had to go over last week because my parents have DirecTV. I had to go over to my parents' house and stick in my Fire Stick so my dad could use YouTube TV with me and watch Titans. Like, so it's all something, you know, here, there, whatever. But the number one thing ESPN has is college football. Because everything else for the most part. The big stuff is still on broadcast television. The NFL will almost never run into this problem. Now, if you've got Spectrum in New York, you got a little bit of an issue because the first game is Buffalo and the Jets. But at the same time, it's on ABC, which is broadcast over the air. So you can get one of those antennas or whatever. I don't even know how you do that, but you could do something like that. This is bad. This is bad because college football is the only one where the championship's played on cable. I mean, hockey, if the championship's on TNT, it's played on cable, but ABC for the actual Stanley Cup final. Baseball, Fox for the World Series. This is the one where, and Spectrum is the number 2 carrier across the country outside of Comcast. And so if you're a Spectrum person, I don't know what you're supposed to do now. But wow, as somebody who has no skin in this game, I am fascinated to see how many people drop Spectrum across the country this weekend if they don't get ESPN for their college football, even in a week where it's not that good. Speaking of not that good, Alabama opens with MTSU. That's supposed to be a blowout. We'll see if it ends up being a blowout or not. But coming up next, is the Alabama dynasty dead? This year might be the year to tell us, but you either have to be in or you have to be out. We'll get to that coming up next here on the program. And let's give something away. It's a Friday. It's a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Be caller number 5 right now at 615-737-1025, and you'll win 4 entry tickets and 2 unlimited Midway Ride wristbands to the Nashville Fair Friday, September 8th through Sunday, September 17th at the Fairgrounds, Nashville. Good luck there. More info at nashfair.fun. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
And we are done. Vandy 24-21.
All the big stories.
I'm sure Vandy will be a much better team if Clark Lee is the coach.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
What a stop by UC Sarah.
Then he wouldn't end up on my team.
Driving his way to victory lane.
I think that's the right strategy.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Did you know trading in your car at a dealer could cost you money? Research shows consumers who trade in their car pay an average of $990 more. So don't trade in, sell it to We Buy Any Car. Get your free online valuation now at
We Buy Any Car.
Research published in the Journal of Industrial Economics, December 2015, showed buyers with a trade-in pay an average of $990 more than those who do not trade in their used cars.
Hey, it's Chad Withrow to tell you about my favorite sportsbook and casino, BetUS.com. Football is back, and it's time to lay down your bets. I only endorse one sportsbook, and that's BetUS.com. BetUS is celebrating its 30th year of sports betting service with a special offer of up to 30 risk-free bets. That's right, up to 30 risk-free bets. It's called Bet Protect. BetUS.com also offers 125% sign-up bonus. Get started by visiting BetUS.com or calling 1-800-MY-BETUS to learn more. BetUS.com, sportsbook and casino, where the game begins.
Blue Raider fans, your home for all the MTSU football and men's basketball action is on 93.3 Classic Hits and 95.1 Classic Hits in the borough. Catch the action all season long with Chip Walters on the call. Go Blue Raiders!
Saturday on Fox 17.
Can Coach Prime, Deion Sanders change everything? Reinvent an entire Colorado Buffaloes team in an offseason.
We bringing the heat.
Can a one-win team upset a Big 12 powerhouse?
Baby, you best believe.
Give Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt something to yell about.
Wow.
Can one man change everything? We're about to find out. Colorado versus TCU.
Saturday, watch the big noon kickoff at 9. Colorado and TCU at 11 on Fox 17.
The Sam Pugh Memorial Race at Duck River Raceway Park, Sunday, September 3rd with super late models in action. Duck River Raceway Park is just 10 minutes from Henry Horton State Park and less than an hour from Nashville. Come to Duck River Raceway Park for the Sam Pugh Memorial Race on Sunday, September 3rd. Grandstands open at 4 and drivers meeting at 5. Come enjoy good food, good people, and great racing. At this family-friendly event, Sunday, September 3rd, get your tickets at the gate and learn more at duckriverracewaypark.com or on their Facebook page.
Sports and Social in Green Hills is bringing you the ultimate fan experience this football season with a 33-foot media wall, 22 TVs, mouth-watering game day eats, and cold beer. Sports and Social opening September 7th at the Mall at Green Hills.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, Trey Wingo here. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Middle Tennessee is, they won 8 games last year. They beat a top 25 team in Miami. They won a bowl game against San Diego State. Rick Stockstill's been there for a long time. He's done a really good job. They got a great offensive scheme in terms of how they do things and problems that they create. So it's going to be challenging from our players from that standpoint. They're a very aggressive defensive team. A lot of stunts, a lot of blitzes, a lot of negative plays. So it's a very challenging preparation for our offensive team. And they're sound and solid and do a great job on special teams. So this is a challenging team for us to play. But again, we're concerned about how do we establish an identity for our team in terms of how we compete and how we play, regardless of, who we might play.
There you go. That was Nick Saban. And talking about getting ready for MTSU. Now, it has come out that Jalen Milroe is going to be the starting quarterback for Alabama tomorrow against MTSU. I am still I still think that ultimately Ty Simpson is going to be the quarterback at Alabama. And the reason why I say it's going to be Ty Simpson, and the reason that I feel so confident that it will be Ty Simpson, is because so many of you were so excited about Ty Simpson when there was all the talk about him maybe picking Tennessee. And so I think ultimately, I saw Jalen Milroe last year, and yes, Jalen Milroe can get better the same way Jalen Hurts got better the same way. But I've seen Saban do this. He goes into the year, and Nick Saban decides, okay, my guy is going to win the job in the games. Kind of like the preseason games. And no disrespect to MTSU, and again, that game's on 93.3 and the 93.3 Classic Hits and 93.3.com, the Classic Hits app, I should say, and 93.3classichits.com. That game, of course, you can hear it. But Alabama treats those games, even though Saban will never say it. And this is why he gets mad when they win them, and then he sits there and talks about how bad the team is. Saban will never say this, but he treats that game like a preseason game. So I think Jalen Milroe gets the start. And then I think Ty Simpson goes in. And then I think Ty Simpson wins the job. And then I think Alabama goes undefeated. So I've said, I think Alabama goes 12-0. I think Alabama wins the SEC championship game. Next hour, we'll get into the, official predictions as to whether or not Alabama's going to win the title, which I could not find. I went looking for it yesterday. I could not find it. I assume that that's what I picked last season, that Alabama would win the title. But here's the one thing that I will say about Alabama and their title chances and everything else. And again, I think they're the second best favorite according to the FanDuel Sportsbook app. This kind of feels like the do or die time for Nick Saban. And I know people will always say that how many times has Paul Feinbaum said that the Alabama dynasty is over and Saban is dead and that he'll never rise again? How many times have they done that? Only to see, that Jalen Hurts team win the championship. Only to see Tua with the bomb in Atlanta. Only to see Mac Jones, who was, a third-string quarterback, win the national title, and Devontae Smith end up winning the Heisman. And so every time we start to count Nick Saban out, Nick Saban finds a way to remind you that he is still the king of college football and the king of the SEC. And there is no doubt in my mind that that is exactly what Nick Saban is. Nick Saban is the king of college football, and Nick Saban is the king of the SEC. And so this has been the biggest struggle I've had all offseason when thinking about the future of college football and thinking about Nick Saban and thinking about the SEC, which is, I know Georgia's good. I know Georgia's going to be good. Every year, Kirby's going to have them good. Kirby's been good every year since the second year that he got to Georgia. But it feels like it's been a while since Saban's been on top. And I know they went to the championship in 2021. But it just, like, they lost. And even though they lost and they had the Heisman Trophy quarterback, it felt so un-Saban. They got worked in that championship game. Now, we thought that he might have been done when they got worked in 2018 by Trevor Lawrence. And then LSU looked like the top dog when they won the title in 2019. And they gave Ed Orgeron that contract that they would later come to regret. So I think the question has to be, when it comes to college football, do you believe that Saban's run is over? Not, do you believe that Alabama will have a decent team? I mean, Alabama can go 10-2. But that's a bad year. Last year, they're celebrating in the streets in Knoxville for going 10-2. They were upset with Nick Saban for losing 2 games. And not to say if this had happened or if that hadn't happened or if this, but, and this is just the swing of football, and this has happened to Tennessee the other way too, but if Jahmyr Gibbs catches the ball in Knoxville, Alabama wins the game. As crazy and fakakta as that game was, and as good as Josh Heupel and Hendon Hooker were, that if Jahmyr Gibbs, a guy who's pass catching, should be good enough to land him with the 12th overall pick in the draft, if he just catches the ball, Alabama wins the game. So it's not like Saban was that far off from being 11-1, or, the LSU game was right down to the wire and 12-0. It's not like he was that far off. And I just don't believe that Nick Saban is done. I believe Bill Belichick, for instance, in the NFL, and I have all the respect in the world for Coach Belichick. I think Coach Belichick's done some crazy things, and I think it's probably obvious that Coach Belichick, had the career that he's had because of Tom Brady. But he was the one that drafted Brady, and he was the one that made the decision to go with Brady over Bledsoe. So Belichick belongs in the Hall of Fame. He belongs the accolade. He deserves all the accolades. Maybe the greatest coach of all time, although Bill Walsh, he developed 2 quarterbacks, so it would be a tough argument for me between Walsh or Belichick. I've kind of always felt it was Belichick, but lately, the last 3 years, it's kind of made me feel like it was Walsh. But I say this because, again, I'm ready to count Belichick out. I don't think the Patriots are going to compete this year. I don't think the Patriots are going to compete next year. And I don't know how many years of not competing Bill Belichick gets before he and Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft, and they decide it's time to maybe look in a different direction. Or that, Saban maybe, or Belichick maybe thinks about exiting gracefully. I don't know how long that is. So I say all of this because I think Belichick's done, but I don't think Saban is. And the thing we've learned about Saban is when you think they have Saban figured out, Saban turns around and wins a national championship. Every time you think you've got Nick Saban figured out, every time you think that somebody in the college football world, whether it's the SEC, whether it was Clemson in the ACC, every time you think there's somebody, Gus Malzahn after the kick 6, every time you think there's somebody, here comes Saban. Every time. Remember when Ohio State won the national title the first year of the college football playoff? They went down to the Sugar Bowl, and they went toe-to-toe. I really feel like Lane Kiffin let Alabama down in that game and did not call a very good game, and in part because I think he took the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands when I didn't think that Ohio State could stop Derrick Henry. But Ohio State ended up winning the game. It was a wild and crazy game. Zeke Elliott went nuts, and Ohio State won. And Ohio State wins a championship, and it's Urban's, I think, third year there as the coach. They win the national title. Urban's not going anywhere. The recruiting classes aren't going anywhere. Hell, Ohio State pretty much brought back the same team, including Cardale Jones, the quarterback, who should have absolutely left after that championship. But Saban didn't go anywhere. Saban did not go anywhere. Won a national title with Jacob Coker. Then Deshaun Watson beat Saban. Again, miracle play at the end of the game, and Deshaun Watson beats him. The next year, Alabama doesn't even make it to the SEC championship game. And Kirby Smart, his protege, has a huge lead in the national title game. And then Saban pulls his quarterback, and he wins the national championship. Then Dabo Swinney has the new quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, and they've got a superstar team, 4 wide receivers, 2 running backs, all of whom are in the NFL. Great defensive players. I think he had like 3 defensive linemen, Cleveland Ferrell, Dexter Lawrence, and Christian, the guy on the Dolphins. And they all go in the first round of the NFL draft. And they crush Alabama out there in San Francisco. And now Saban's dying, and then he loses to LSU the next year. And then Saban wins the national championship. Saban, you can argue one way or another, had him in the title game 2 years ago. It was somewhat of a miracle. They crushed Georgia in the SEC championship game. Bryce Young won the Heisman that day. And then all of a sudden, Jamison Williams pops his knee on that turf, and Georgia wins with Alabama having nobody to throw the ball to. So Georgia has now beaten Alabama, which we didn't think was possible. Georgia was known for choking specifically against Alabama. Then last year, Tennessee beats Alabama for the first time in an eon. And LSU and Brian Kelly's first year wins. And Alabama doesn't even sniff the playoff. And Alabama's out even with maybe a generational college quarterback. And now they start from scratch. And again, Jalen Milroe is going to start tomorrow, but we don't know who Alabama's quarterback's going to be. And so now would be a popular time to cash your chips in on Saban. Now would be the time to say, okay, is this the end of the dynasty? All good things do have to come to an end. As we've seen with Bill Belichick, just because you're still coaching doesn't mean that you're the same guy. Belichick doesn't have the same aura anymore that he once had. Some of that's because of Brady. I also think some of that is because Belichick is just not as good of a coach as he was in his prime. Nick Saban's 71 years old. He'll be 72 next month on Halloween. So are you in or you out on Saban? And I'm in. I don't think Nick Saban's going anywhere. I think that is exactly what Nick Saban wants every year. You heard the cut that we played, to start this segment where Saban talked about this team finding an identity this year. I think it's kind of the challenge that Saban is able to give his team that he hasn't been able to give to the teams in years past because they had already accomplished something or most of the guys had already won a title Saban can look at everybody here and say, you guys failed. Nobody thinks anything of Alabama anymore, which isn't true, but that's not what Saban's going to sell them. Hard to do that when Bryce Young returns as the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. So count out Saban if you want, but I'm not counting out Nick Saban this year. I'm in. And that's why when I was going through these games and I was picking them game by game, which, as I have told you guys, that's how I do it. I don't look at, what do I want the end result to be? I just go game by game. And then after I go game by game, I tally it up and I see where they finish in the SEC. And I don't, I want Vanderbilt to make a bowl game. I do. I have Vanderbilt 5-7. I want them to make a bowl game. I think they'll win tomorrow. They'll crush Alabama A&M. And I would love it if they could win both the Wake Forest game on the road and UNLV on the road, and then you're at 4-0. You've already crushed the 3.5 over-under, but just going through it game by game, I just couldn't do it. When I got to, I said 5-7. I thought, I hate that for Clark if that ends up being what happens. So I just do it game by game. And I don't see Alabama losing this year. And then I put them in Atlanta, right here down the street from where I am right now. I put them in Atlanta, in the Dome, against Georgia. And I think Saban's going to get his revenge there too. So I don't know if Alabama wins another title. Times have changed in college football with NIL and transfer portals and things like that. And we've already seen in the past Saban bitch about the fact that they don't have enough money. So we've seen maybe Alabama doesn't have as much money as everybody else. But every couple of years there comes a moment where we ask, is the dynasty over? And right now is the perfect time. Alabama didn't make the playoff last year. Alabama didn't make the SEC title game. Alabama lost to two of its biggest rivals last year that were on its schedule outside of Auburn, who was an unmitigated disaster. Is the Saban run of dominance over? And I'll take Nick Saban. You take the field. You can take the likely out, whatever you want to call it. Alabama doesn't even have a quarterback yet. And I'll still take Nick Saban. Because that's what Nick Saban does. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get Chad's thoughts on that coming up at the top of the hour. 615-737-1025. And the idea of Tennessee, you know, Joe Milton playing the first game. Are they going to double up on last season? 615-737-1025. Coming up next on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, I do want to talk about the quarterback situation at Alabama. And I want to do a little potpourri with the SEC if we could, so we'll do that next. 615-737-1025, Fireball Hot Take Friday. I love Fireball whiskey. Why? Because it goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. The return of real football. Now, I know we had some games last week, but now we got the big ones, is upon us. And there's no better way to celebrate than with ice-cold Fireball cinnamon whiskey. I think I may be indulging in some Fireball whiskey after the Louisville victory tonight. That's right. That's how much I love Fireball whiskey because, again, it goes down so smooth and it tastes so great, and I know we're going to win. Fireball whiskey. Ignite tonight. Please do responsibly. Be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball cinnamon whiskey.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Baby Metal. Death Clock. The Baby Clock Tour 2023. This Tuesday, Nashville Municipal Auditorium. Baby Metal, Death Clock, one night together live with special guest Jason Richardson. On sale now. Buy tickets at livenation.com.
Real estate investors, get ready for an incredible opportunity. D&M Development is thrilled to announce the Phase 1 presale of 16 non-owner-occupied short-term rentals in Nashville's exclusive resort-style community, the New Cumberland. Nestled between Germantown and East Nashville, this exceptional location offers stunning views of the city and the Cumberland River. Each unit features spacious kitchen, 4 bedrooms, and 4 baths, providing the ultimate luxury experience for your guests. Resort-style pools and a wide range of amenities. Don't miss out on this exclusive investment chance. Visit thenewcumberland.com for more information and secure your spot in this extraordinary community.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on 102.5 The Game.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Junie Riddle,
the guy that can come in and give us some good goal-scoring production,
and Nick Keiser,
another guy that I thought was interesting that got a one-year deal.
Each Saturday morning at 9, it's Riddle and the Reporter on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I know that, your number one focus is not on the game. It's on the depth chart. And look, there's a lot of competition on the team. And when we put a depth chart out, you all think that's like final. Like this is like etched in stone that it's going to be this way forevermore. Just because we come out of fall camp and that's where it is, but creates a lot of distractions on our team, creates a lot of, guys thinking that, well, this guy won the job now and I'm not going to play or whatever. And quite frankly, we don't need that. And I want all of our players to continue to compete, continue to compete for playing time, to try to play at the highest level. And I don't want anybody on our team to think they're a backup player or whatever. The depth chart kind of does that. I think most of the players on our team know who should start in the game and who shouldn't start. But that's something that they do day to day in terms of the way they compete and the way they play. And nobody's entitled to playing just because we put it on a piece of paper and say this is the way it is today. So I apologize for that, but it is what it is.
There you go. That was Saban talking about the depth chart. And I know you want a depth chart every year so you guys can sit there and we can. And I love Saban. You know, I consider Nick a friend. But, I mean, he's got to be smart. He knows that the reason why people want a depth chart is because, well, we want to know who's going to be playing in the game. I mean, that's like why when the Titans' first unofficial depth chart ahead of the first preseason game comes out, we all want to look at it and we all want to say, all right, let's see it. Who's playing where, who's doing what, of course, that's what we want to know. And I do find it odd that Saban didn't come out with a depth chart at the start of the week where we normally see the start of the depth charts come out. Or, you know, normally what happens is even in the quarterback battles, the coaches come out and they name a starting quarterback. Like last week, like Georgia did with their quarterback, and then, you know, the depth chart comes out and nobody cares anymore because we all know who the starter's going to be. Well, I guess Nick Saban waited until today to name Jalen Milroe, who started last year in place of Bryce Young, as their quarterback this season. Now, maybe he's improved, and I'm not ruling that out because in college football, you know, we're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I mean, we see guys in the NFL improve. Kenny Pickett, I think, has improved significantly since last year. Jalen Hurts. I mean, think about what Jalen Hurts was at Alabama when they had to take him out of the national championship game and what Jalen Hurts is now with the Eagles. So, I mean, that is by no means anything surprising or whatever. But naming Jalen Milroe as the starting quarterback kind of takes some wind out of my sails because I've been thinking that Ty Simpson is going to be the quarterback. You know, more of a pro-style guy. Milroe, more of a runner, or at least that's what Milroe was last year. I mean, I remember when Ty Simpson committed to Alabama, and everybody was talking about how Ty Simpson was, you know, he was going to be the guy if he had picked Tennessee that was apparently going to totally change Tennessee. So I think the reason why Saban didn't put out a depth chart is because he didn't want to tell anybody who his quarterback was going to be, and this was the easiest way to do it. And I think now he's clearly decided on a QB, and that QB for right now is Milroe. But I don't think when I say decided, I don't think Saban has decided. Like big picture, I don't think he's decided who the quarterback is. I think what he's decided is that for right now, Milroe will get the first crack at it, and Ty Simpson will come in. And I know they've got that transfer. I don't know. I think it's Ty Simpson. And I think there's a chance that Ty Simpson not only ends up winning the job, but maybe even ends up winning the Heisman. I think if it's not Milroe, and again, I just don't think Milroe threw the ball enough last year. If it's not Milroe and it's Simpson, the way Alabama may throw the ball down the field this year, the way that I'm going to call it now, winning the Heisman. And I was thinking about who to make the Heisman, you know, who I was going to pick for the Heisman Trophy this year. It's too easy to take the names that we know. It's too easy to take Jaden Daniels at LSU. It's too easy to take Jordan Travis at Florida State. It's too easy, obviously, to take Caleb Williams. So I'm going to stick with Ty Simpson. I think Ty Simpson's going to win the job. I think they're mostly all going to play against MTSU. I think that's kind of the point. No disrespect to MTSU, because, boy, an upset would be great. But I think that's why they're playing MTSU. They'll get this quarterback thing figured out, and then it'll be Ty Simpson. So I'm calling it now, even though Jalen Milroe gets the start. Vanderbilt plays tomorrow. That's part of our doubleheader that we have here with the Tennessee game, which we've talked a lot about. We'll talk with Chad about as well. Vanderbilt plays tomorrow against Alabama A&M. I don't really have any thoughts on this. I mean, Vanderbilt should probably go in there and absolutely dominate them, and this should be a blowout. I was a little disappointed. Last week. Now, Vanderbilt was on the cusp at 35-14 of blowing Hawaii out of the game, but they didn't blow them out. And it's like Trevor said on the show before the game, and this is kind of how I approached the Hawaii game, which was I think he said they're fun to watch but easy to beat. And Vanderbilt, I mean, again, they didn't blow them out. They blew them out last year after their horrible 11 minutes to start the game, but they didn't blow them out. And that makes me a little nervous. And so not this week for Alabama A&M, but for Vanderbilt's sake, the schedule, if they're going to make a bowl game, which is what this is all about, if Vandy's going to make a bowl game, the schedule becomes real after this week. You know, I'm not a huge believer in Wake Forest. I mean, last year, and maybe it's because I watched them play one game against Louisville, Wake Forest is going to have a new quarterback. And again, I didn't think Wake Forest was very good. And so after the Vanderbilt game this week against Alabama A&M, they go on the road to Wake Forest. Then they go on the road to UNLV. I think for their sake, they need to win both. I think they need to win both. Now, in my official predictions, where I picked every single game, I do have Vanderbilt upsetting Kentucky and Nashville, and I do have Vanderbilt beating Missouri and Nashville because both are home games. I see Kentucky, who plays Florida the next week in Lexington, and then Georgia overlooking Vanderbilt. But then I see Vanderbilt losing it, that terrible Florida team last night, because in large part, Florida's got to get some wins somewhere. And then after that, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn, Carolina, and Tennessee. I mean, I just don't, where are they going to win there? And the South Carolina game is in Columbia. So you could argue Auburn, because Auburn looks like a mess, but still hard for me to believe that Vanderbilt's going to win that game at home. And that would make Vanderbilt 5-7. So I'm already giving them the one upset with Kentucky. They can easily find another win on the schedule. But after the Hawaii showing the other night where, again, I expected a domination, and I didn't get it. I'm a little nervous about Vanderbilt being able to find those 6 wins. And I think they should find the 6 wins, and I'm pulling for them to find the 6 wins, and you know I believe in the coach. But I'm a little nervous about that. There's just a little bit where I'm like, going to Florida, and Florida's terrible, but Florida's going to have to beat somebody. And so that's a game on their schedule where when I went through Florida, they get smoked by Tennessee. They get smoked by Utah last night. They're going to beat McNeese State. Then they get smoked by Tennessee in Gainesville. I mean, I don't see any way, unless Hendon Hooker was the only person there that mattered, I don't see any way that Tennessee ends up losing to Florida in Gainesville, even though it's in Gainesville, and I can't remember the last time Tennessee won there. They're going to beat Charlotte. Then they got Kentucky in Lexington. Kentucky, I think, will win that game because I don't think Florida's very good. And then they got South Carolina and Columbia the week after Vandy. So it's almost like, Florida, the rails are going to be falling off after getting beat by Kentucky, that they're going to be like, okay, this has to be the game that we win. So we have to beat Vandy. So I have them beating Vandy. So Vanderbilt's going to have to get better now. And Clark will be the first person to tell you that they have to get better. And I think that playing the Hawaii game last week was good because now they'll be able to kind of see themselves in the mirror a little bit. And then let's see how they, improve against Alabama A&M, who they'll crush. And then it gets for real next week against Wake Forest. And yes, I do care about that. And I'm pulling for Vanderbilt on that one, that they can find a way to make a bowl. I'm worried about Florida. That Florida team we saw yesterday, I think that team is terrible. And when I did my predictions last night, which yesterday we said on the show that we were going to go ahead and predict Florida to lose to Utah, and we were right about that, Adam Sanders, that as I went through it, I'm like, South Carolina's got a quarterback, and that game's on the road. They'll score too many points. They'll lose. Kentucky always gets up for Florida, especially with the game in Lexington. I know that Tennessee's probably a bigger rival for Kentucky, but Florida for all those years, and I would know this because I was on the radio there, Florida was always kind of the bigger game for them, even though Tennessee was the bigger rival, because Florida, the streak, I guess, when I was on the radio had been broken against Tennessee, but it hadn't been broken against Florida. So I know they'll get up for Florida. That game's in Lexington. They'll lose that. And then South Carolina's got a quarterback. Georgia, Arkansas's got a quarterback. LSU's got a quarterback. And then they play Florida State, who's got a quarterback at the end of the year. That quarterback they had last night, Florida, they're not beating anybody. So forget about them. I do not see a loss on Georgia's schedule. Ole Miss might be tough. That's in Athens. The defense will be too much for Tennessee and Knoxville. I do not see a single loss. I don't even see a game that they could possibly lose on Georgia's schedule. And it was crazy last year after I thought LSU was going to finish 6th in the SEC West. I've got LSU at 10-2 this year, but I have them losing to Ole Miss and Oxford. I'm not an Ole Miss supporter. I mean, I'm not a Lane Kiffin guy. Like, I don't care what Lane Kiffin does or says or doesn't do on Twitter. But when I went through their schedule, I have them losing to Alabama and Tuscaloosa. I have them losing to Georgia and Athens. But I have them winning all the other ones. LSU is at home. Arkansas is at home. Those are kind of the other two teams that I think are pretty good in the West. So I'm a little high on Ole Miss. I'm high on LSU. And obviously, I think Alabama and Georgia go undefeated. Tennessee, once again, 10-2 by my official prediction count, which I am kind of excited about. I have, by the way, 2 coaches getting fired. Florida's coach, who Caroline texted me last night. She said, oh, no, they'll give him another year. They're not giving him a year. Not another year full of that. Like, we watched what we saw last night, uniform violations, no offense. He's out. So I have him getting fired after 4-8. I have Missouri getting fired, Eli Drinkwitz at 3-9. I think he talks, but he doesn't walk. And I don't think Missouri's very good. And then I have A&M at 5-7. I'm not buying the hype of their NIL money. And the other thing I am not buying the hype of is Bobby Petrino. You know, I see everybody talks about Bobby Petrino like, he's a great offensive play caller. Nah, I watched it. More on Petrino later. So I have A&M at 5-7, but they owe Jimbo Fisher $1 gazillion, so I don't know if they can fire him. So that's kind of my synopsis of the preseason SEC breakdown. And when Ty Simpson ends up winning that job as the quarterback at Alabama, you can say you heard it here first. 615-737-1025 Fireball Hot Take Friday. Chad Withrow from Outkick. He joins us next. Of course, we get his thoughts on Tennessee ahead of the Virginia game, the rest of the SEC, the rest of the college football season. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff.
It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
So, if there's brunch, why isn't there dinner?
Or dunch, for that matter.
No, we know why there's no dunch.
Why is that?
People might get confused and miss brunch.
And I never want to miss a brunch this good.
Me either. Cheers.
Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville Hotel. Breakfast buffet Monday through Thursday from 7 till 10:30 a.m. and lunch from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Weekend brunch Friday through Sunday from 7 a.m. till 2 p.m. featuring cast iron pancakes, made to order waffles, and eggs and carafes of mimosas. Treat yourself today to Kitchen Notes at the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
It's time to let your voice be heard. Nashville is headed to a runoff in the mayoral race on Thursday, September 14th. Stand up and be counted. Cromwell Media reminds you to get out and vote for the future of our city.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup.
And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Now, your Game Center update.
Week 1 of college football continues tonight and this weekend after a busy night on Thursday. The big game around town this weekend will be taking place at Nissan Stadium on Saturday as Tennessee and Virginia begin their seasons. Vols head coach Josh Heupel on the excitement of Week 1.
Officially game week, looking forward to the opportunity of going and playing with this program. It's awesome that we get an opportunity to start inside of Mid-State. Huge fan following there. But you look at the opportunity we have, got a great opponent. We're SEC Nation's going to be there, national TV audience.
Tennessee versus Virginia kickoff is set for 11 a.m. The action continues tonight as Louisville and Georgia Tech kick off at 6:30 on ESPN. Vandy hosts Alabama A&M on Saturday with coverage beginning at 4:30 right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Middle Tennessee travels to Alabama to take on the Crimson Tide with coverage at 5:30 on 93.3 Classic Hits. And the Nashville Sounds continue their series versus Durham, the AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. First pitch is set for 5:35 on your home of the Sounds, 94.9 The Fan. From the Game Nashville studios, this is Ian Safar.
Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
79-52 Vanderbilt.
I think he's going to coach
Shot by Sherrill.
You're going to see more moves. The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. And there's nobody that I'd rather talk to on a Fireball Hot Take Friday leading into Week 1 of the college football season than Chad Withrow. Chad Withrow, of course, is presented by BetUS from Outkick, joins us now on the program. So, Chad, let's start. Tennessee tomorrow morning. Everybody is thinking blowout. I just want to see what the next step of the Josh Heupel era is tomorrow. Let's just big picture, what are your expectations tomorrow morning?
Let's heat it up on this Hot Take Friday. I'm with you. It's going to be hot tomorrow at Nissan Stadium. I'm going to be there for the game. My expectations for this game, especially with Virginia coming in with new quarterback. I think it's a transfer from Monmouth. They've got their top defensive player, pass rusher Chico Bennett, out in this game. Tennessee should take care of business. What I'm looking forward to seeing more than anything in this game is an improved Tennessee defense. I think that you know what you have with Joe Milton, and he's not Hendon Hooker. I don't think he's going to be as good as Hendon Hooker. Physically, he's probably better than Hendon Hooker, but he's not as good of a decision maker. He sometimes throws the ball too hard. He holds the ball too long at times. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. He's going to flash brilliance in this game, and he's going to make some frustrating mistakes at times. What I'm looking forward to seeing more than anything in this game is what I've heard about all offseason, improved depth across that defense. Defensive line, back to the safeties. They've got more players at every position, and we saw a big jump up a year ago on the defensive side. Still wasn't great, but much better. And I want to see Tennessee take that next step this year defensively, because if they get a really good defense to go alongside that offense, then look out. I really think this is the year Tennessee, we see the floor of what they're going to be. I think going from Hooker, who was the perfect quarterback for this system, to Joe Milton, who could be a really good quarterback in this system, I think we're going to see more of the floor of what Josh Heupel is capable of. And I'm willing to bet that the floor is going to look pretty good to Tennessee fans if it's 9-3.
Chad, by the way, is brought to you by BetUS, a sportsbook and casino. BetUS is offering 125% sign-up bonuses and a risk-free 30 bets. Get started at BetUS.com. So I want to go to Milton for a second because we talked about this earlier today, and I am convinced that this is, for Tennessee football, Like, this is the year that we learn, okay, was it the Josh Heupel system, and it will be plug and play. Just get him a semi-talented quarterback, and it'll be plug and play. Put him in there, 55 points a game. It doesn't matter if it's Drew Lock or Hendon Hooker or Joe Milton or Jared Stillman. Or is it going to be, hey, that was a special season with a special quarterback? Do you feel the same way? Or are you convinced that Josh Heupel will still be able to hang 50 a game with Hendon Hooker or with Joe Milton instead of Hendon Hooker because that's just what Josh Heupel does?
I mean, I think they're going to put up huge numbers with Milton, but I would disagree that it's just plug and play with any quarterback. I think it takes a really good quarterback to run this system, and you got to find the right fit that can run with that level of tempo and make the right quick decision and deliver the ball on time and accurately. Yeah, there's going to be some guys wide open in this offense. We've seen that throughout. You got to be able to lay it out there and hit the wide open guys too. And there's a lot of quarterbacks who can do that. I don't think there's a ton of quarterbacks who you can just plug in and they're going to be great within this offense. So it's about finding the right guy. The good news for Tennessee is the backup quarterback is Nico Iamaleava, who's the number 1 or number 2 rated quarterback in the country, depending on what you look at, right behind or right around Arch Manning in this class. And he's a big 6'6" guy that can run. That should be the next great quarterback for Josh Heupel. Keep this in mind with Joe Milton. And I know there's a lot of excitement about Joe Milton, but this is where I would tell Tennessee fans and everyone to pump their brakes just a bit. Joe Milton has been the starter going into a season now twice, once at Michigan, once at Tennessee. He lost the job in season both times that he was named the starter going into the season. This is the third try. So while he was, did what he needed to against Vandy, which wasn't much in that game, played well against Clemson in the Orange Bowl, we need to see him have an entire offseason as the guy, which he's been the whole time, no doubt about it, and come into the season playing at a high level. We haven't really seen that yet from Joe Milton. He's been handed the keys to the Ferrari a couple times now at 2 big-time programs, and he lost the job both times. So let's see how he does early this season before crowning him a Heisman contender.
Chad Withrow's with us. Mel Kiper's big board came out, and I know. Mel Kiper's big board came out, and Joe Milton's not one of the top 6 quarterbacks. Caleb Williams is number 1, Drake May number 2, Riley Leonard at Duke is number 3, Bo Nix at Oregon is number 4, Michael Penix at Washington is number 5, and Quinn Ewers at Texas is number 6. Are you surprised, given the size, the arm strength, and everything else, that Joe Milton doesn't crack Mel Kiper's top 6?
Does not surprise me, and for the same reason I just mentioned, I need to see more of him. I need to see him with a full season as the starter and the guy going into a season and complete that season, looking the way that we've seen that Joe Milton can look. And those are good quarterbacks ahead of him. I've got no big objection to anyone on that list that's ahead of Joe Milton. Now, I do think that Joe Milton, I know we talked about this before, Jared, I think he could be the Anthony Richardson of 2023. I think he could be the guy that is inconsistent but puts on big performances and then has sort of the dud of a game. But once you get to the draft process, suddenly he's going to shoot up boards because people are going to measure him. They're going to see him throw the ball. He's going to run the 40. He's going to bench press. He's going to do all these things. And someone's going to buy into the fact that he is a generational physical talent that can learn a system and be the guy for them. So I do think that while I agree with Mel Kiper's big board right now, I have no big objection to it, at least I'll say, I think by the time the draft rolls around, he could be an enormously fast riser because of the pre-draft process and how teams could become enamored with him.
Chad, what do you think about where Tennessee stands right now in the big picture of the SEC? I was just looking at the schedule, and I keep thinking about this Texas A&M game. And I say that because I think Texas A&M is like the biggest enigma maybe in the entire conference, and it feels maybe that way consistently. Where do you think, kind of, not just projecting for this season, but big picture Tennessee stands in the SEC?
I think they're squarely, obviously, behind Georgia and Alabama. And I think outside of that, that's it.
Not behind LSU?
Not behind LSU. Let's see what LSU does this year, but I seem to recall Tennessee going to Baton Rouge and just shellacking LSU on the road a year ago. I mean, LSU could do nothing against Tennessee. So I think they're in that group. Now, A&M, talent-wise, is in the group with Bama and Georgia and LSU and everyone. So I'm with you. I think A&M is a team that everybody's sleeping on this year. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think because they were so bad a year ago and they disappointed last season. People are expecting more of that. I think they're going to be really good now with Bobby Petrino calling plays. So I'm circling that game October 14th. Tennessee hosting A&M is a big one. Tennessee at Florida is going to be a big determination. Can they, win for the first time in the Swamp since 2003 in 20 years? To get that monkey off their back and do that would be big for them. I think I was reading something, I believe at The Athletic recently, and it was crazy to read. It was someone's projection of the season, and they were talking about, I think, A&M, and it said, if A&M is going to get back with up there with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, and yes, now even the Tennessees of the world, they're going to need to do this. I thought, man, it has been a while since anyone has mentioned Tennessee on a talent and program level of Alabama, Georgia, LSU. They have not won to that level, obviously. But I do think that they're such a challenge because of the offense, and now the talent is getting up to a level, especially defensively, where it's improved a lot. Where, I think they're behind that top group. So, where does that put them? Third, fourth, fifth, right around there probably in the SEC. But there's always teams ready to rise up, and I think A&M is that team this year that's ready to rise up and join that upper echelon of the conference.
Would you say that when you look at Tennessee's schedule, that it's kind of an easy schedule this year? I mean, anytime you have Georgia and Alabama on your schedule, which Tennessee, I guess for this is the last time, but Tennessee does every year, it's hard to say it's an easy schedule. But A&M's at home, and, again, Florida saw that. But, I just don't see a lot of teeth inside this schedule.
I think they got a break with what Virginia is right now, right? We'll see them play out tomorrow. But I think when that game was scheduled and Brock Mendenhall was the coach, I think, that could be a challenge on a neutral side against this Virginia team. That may be pretty decent. And I think because of what that program's gone through and just where Tony Elliott is in year two, that should be a bit of a cakewalk in this game. Non-conference, Texas San Antonio is really good. They're only a 2.5-point underdog at Houston, a Big 12 team. So I think Texas San Antonio is going to be a lot better, probably going to win the American Athletic Conference, or could this year in their first year in it. So that's going to be a challenge for Tennessee. But, SEC-wise, I think the big swing games are the ones we mentioned. At Florida, I think Tennessee's better than South Carolina at home, but getting A&M at home, at Alabama, I think most would chalk up to a loss, especially with the revenge factor. After a year ago, they get Georgia at home. I don't think Missouri's going to be very good. They go to Kentucky, which is another interesting game to see what Devin Leary in Kentucky looks like. It's tough to say any SEC schedule is easy outside of Georgia's, which I think legitimately for their program is really easy when you look at their schedule up until they go to Knoxville in November. But for Tennessee's purposes, it's been a lot worse. I can definitely say that.
Chad Withrow's with us from Outkick, presented by BetUS. Last one on Tennessee. Big picture. What, outside of injury, what would scare you if you saw it tomorrow for the season?
What would scare me if I saw it tomorrow? I'll give you one that I don't think is getting a lot of play right now. Cooper Mays is out he had a procedure done just a few weeks ago, and they're saying that it is just a few, maybe a couple week thing that he's going to miss. The thought is that he's back for Florida. They're very thin at center and in the middle of the offensive line, and that is a very important part of this offense is the center and snapping the ball on time and getting over the ball and doing everything that Josh Heupel wants. Ollie Lane, who I think is like a 5th or 6th year senior, is going to start at center tomorrow for Tennessee. If they have a problem in the operational part of the offense in tomorrow's game, snaps are over the head, not on time, there's false starts, there's issues there, I would be concerned about what the season could be if Cooper Mays is out more than a couple of weeks. So that's one spot that I'm going to be watching that I don't think a lot of people have concern with, but I do, because I know how important Cooper Mays is. He's preseason All-SEC, and I know how important center is to that offense for Tennessee. So that's something I'm watching closely tomorrow.
Chad Withrow, Outkick is presented by BetUS. Again, brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. BetUS is offering 125% sign-up bonuses and 30 risk-free bets. Get started at BetUS.com. So I have a big question for Chad, an SEC-era question that will be determined this season. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Chad Withrow here to tell you about my favorite sportsbook and casino, BetUS.com. Football is back, and that means it's time to lay down your bets. I only endorse one sportsbook and casino. That is BetUS.com. They're celebrating their 30th year of sports betting service, the special offer of up to 30 risk-free bets. That's right, up to 30 risk-free bets. It's called Bet Protect. BetUS.com also offers 125% sign-up bonus, a massive 200% crypto sign-up bonus, and a 250% casino bonus. The game always gets more exciting with a bet, but you can take it to another level at BetUS.com, live in-game betting. Take advantage of their 30th year offer, up to 30 risk-free bets. Get Bet Protect. Get started by visiting BetUS.com or at 1-800-MY-BET-US to learn more. That's 1-800-MY-BET-US. BetUS.com, sportsbook and casino, where the game begins.
New home. New energy. Same Blue Raiders.
99 yards. Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
Catch every game for MTSU on 93.3 Classic Hits. Coach Rick Stockstill is poised to lead his team to yet another bowl appearance.
We're really excited about this opportunity.
Your home for the Blue Raiders is 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, fun in the sun goes way beyond the white sand beaches. Let's rock out at a waterfront concert at the Sound. Let's marvel at masterpieces of the Chihuly Collection and make some flippered friends at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. Let's pedal the 75-mile Pinellas Trail and stop at Florida's oldest microbrewery along the way. This fall, let's go for all the sun and none of the crowds. Let's shine. Plan your getaway at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
Oh, Charlie's, that's where you'll find me. That southern flavor got me saying, hey, y'all. Yum, yum, have some fun. Share with the ones you love. Don't you want to roll?
At O'Charlie's, we thought you'd enjoy a little country rock and rolls. The warm, buttery, delicious kind. Served free with every meal. O'Charlie's. Oh, that's good.
Yum, yum, have some fun. Charlie's, born in Nashville, and it shows.
Hey home buyers, TJ Anderson here. 6326 Patton Avenue is a new construction home in Nashville's Charlotte Park neighborhood. It offers 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and nearly 2,500 square feet. Features include a 2-car garage, custom walk-in shower, and a private backyard that's fully fenced. Text the number 2 to 615-420-2377 for pricing and info. Want your home on the radio? Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why we are referred by clients so often. TJ Anderson Homes at Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
This year, Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee celebrates its 120th anniversary. Through time, BGCMT continues to evolve to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible leaders. Because of your continued support, BGCMT has remained strong and is committed to supporting our youth and solidifying our mission and culture in new exciting ways for 120 years. Visit bgcmt.org today.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company. So today, again, our official SEC, our official season starting SEC figure it out prediction as we go along. And last year, I do give myself credit because I did pick Tennessee going 10-2. Now, I thought they lose to Alabama and Georgia and not South Carolina, but 10-2 is 10-2. Chad Withrow's with us from Outkick, presented by BetUS. BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. BetUS offering 125% sign-up bonuses and 30 risk-free bets. Get started at BetUS.com. Here's my big question for you, Chad Withrow. So I am not predicting that Tennessee will go to Alabama and win this season. But I did hear somebody this week predict that Tennessee was going to go to Alabama this year and beat Alabama again. Alabama's got quarterback issues, as we know, or at least we don't know who the quarterback is going to be. And I am of the belief that if Tennessee beats Alabama on the road in Tuscaloosa this year, then the Saban dynasty is over. Do you agree with that?
No. Only because I feel like we played this game every time they have a setback. They lose to Clemson, and, Dabo Swinney's taking a spot, and the dynasty's over. I mean, what if we're classifying the dynasty as the perennial favorite to win the national championship, then, yeah, it may be over, but only because his protege, Kirby Smart, is beating him right now, beating him in recruiting, beating him on the field, and they're going for a third straight national championship. But, I mean, Alabama as a top 3 or 4 team in America year in, year out, if they lose to Tennessee at home, is that over? No, I don't think so. I think it only ends when Nick Saban retires. That's when we can restart the clock and see who they hire and see what it looks like with the new coach. I think until that happens, their dynasty is very much alive and well. Alabama is a tricky team this year because, on one hand, I look at Nick Saban's confidence in press conferences and the way he's talking about this team, and I feel like this is vintage Nick Saban when they're even a lot better than people think they're going to be going into a season. And on the other hand, I look at Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson and the uncertainty of who's going to start. I guess you throw Tyler Buckner in there as well, the transfer from Notre Dame. And I think, how good is this team really? Because I watched that game. I was there in Knoxville a year ago. You saw it, Jared. They're only in that game because of Bryce Young.
Sure.
I mean, Tennessee's up 17, and if it wasn't for Bryce Young looking like Steve McNair in the Super Bowl as a just magician at times, a wizard in the backfield, getting out of pressure and making big plays, Tennessee probably rolls Bama that day. So they don't have Bryce Young anymore. Do they have a quarterback that can pull them out of the fire that way? Jalen Milroe did with a 76-yard touchdown run at Arkansas when he was the backup a year ago, where it was getting really tight for Bama. Maybe he can in the run game, but I just don't know that I see that with this team. But other than that, they are stacked at every position.
So outside of LSU and Florida State on Sunday night, are you disappointed with the Week 1 schedule?
You know, today on our show, every week I'll do my top 10 college football games of the week. And, Jared, typically I go like 14, 15, 16 deep, and then I make cuts to get it down to 10. I wrote down 10 games exactly. The only 10 games that interested me. So it's really easy to make a top 10. So, yes, I am disappointed to see only a couple of games featuring ranked opponents. There's only one, I think, head-to-head, and that's LSU Florida State, which you mentioned. I'm excited about North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm excited to watch the first game on NBC in the Big Ten, West Virginia and Penn State. I'm almost more excited to watch the Big Ten on NBC package and see what that broadcast looks like. But there's not a lot to get excited about. 11 a.m., Northwestern and Rutgers. It's kind of interesting to see how Northwestern responds to everything, but it's two lower-level Big Ten teams. I think Clemson's going to handle Duke. Maybe I'm surprised in that one, but that's the Monday night game. So, yeah, overall, I'm pretty disappointed in this slate of games. The difference is, like, Tennessee, Virginia in years past would have been, Georgia, Oregon, even though that was a blowout. Like the neutral site, SEC versus other opponent game. You've got North Carolina, South Carolina, but you typically have at least one or two more of those that get you excited. And that Tennessee-Virginia game is a 28-point spread. You just don't have that extra game in there that's Power 5 versus Power 5 on a neutral field. We don't see that as much this year.
So, to your point, like even tonight's game, which I'll be at the Dome between Louisville and Georgia Tech, like Louisville's a 7.5-point favorite. I'm nervous because, it's the start of a new era with a new coach. And I think Jeff Brom's going to be a pretty good coach, but I don't know that. But I'm nervous because, just something bad could happen, or losing to Georgia Tech would be a terrible way to start the season. And it would honestly be abysmal because it's Georgia Tech. But outside of like that fan nervousness that I have, if I wasn't a Louisville fan, I don't think I'd be geared up tonight to watch Louisville, Georgia Tech. And that's the big game that's on today. And I look at the TV networks and how they're kind of screwing up college football the way that we know it. And I'm like, you couldn't get us better Week 1 games?
Yeah, I actually have Louisville, Georgia Tech as my 9th best game of the weekend.
Well, I
So
know
that
that if
shows
you're
you
going
kind
to
of-
Northwestern and Rutgers, I know that you've done some serious homework of trying to find interesting games this week.
I'm trying to find interesting games. I'll give you another interesting one. So Louisville, Georgia Tech made my top 10, and I'll be watching that as well. I'm interested in Jeff Brom. But the Jeff Brom factor in this, Jeff Brom leaves. Purdue had a weird hiring process, right? When he left, they end up hiring the defensive coordinator from Illinois. He opens with Fresno State at Purdue, 11 a.m. on Big Ten Network. Purdue's a 4-point favorite in that game. So a couple of interesting openers featuring Jeff Brom's new team and Jeff Brom's old team that I'll be paying attention to. You know that I went deep this weekend when I'm talking and hyping up Fresno State Purdue. But I'm excited about Fresno State Purdue at 11 a.m. on Big Ten Network because the Boilermakers are only a 4-point favorite in that one. And I think this is an interesting test. I think Jeff Brom's a terrific coach, and Louisville made a great hire. But Georgia Tech now, they promoted the guy who's the interim coach. Are they going to look any different? How's that going to look? There's so many variables with a new coach at a new program. So I'm excited to watch all these games featuring new coaches.
Okay, to that front, the big one of the week, LSU versus Florida State. Do you think that the sequel will be as good or better than the one last year?
I think it's always destined to fail when you had a crazy, good game with big swings a year ago. I do think it's going to be a very good game. I'll say this about the game. I'm not going to bet it. I'm not comfortable really either way. If Florida State wins this game, they're in the college football playoff. That's what I think when I look at Florida State's ACC schedule. Because I think even with a loss at some point, they're going to be in the college football playoff. That's how big the game is for the Seminoles. It's big for both. But just think about the rocket boost you get for LSU or Florida State by beating a top 10 opponent on a neutral site in week one and what that can do for you. Now, LSU's got huge tests the rest of the way because they're in the SEC. Florida State, I really think if they can win this game, I think they're a playoff team. And I don't think I've been saying that a year and a half ago for Mike Norvell that he had any chance at going to a college football playoff anytime soon.
You don't think the game in a month at Clemson would get in the way?
I think a game of the month at Clemson could get in the way, but I think even one loss, Florida State's going to have a great chance this year. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that beat up on each other this year. I don't think we're going to have, the unbeaten versus unbeaten at the end of the season, Michigan State or Michigan and Ohio State or those type of games. I think we're going to have a plethora of one-loss, maybe even a two-loss team make the playoff this year.
Do you look at LSU and see, with Brian Kelly there as the coach and the way they finished last season, do you look at LSU, Chad Withrow, and think that they are on the precipice of elite, or do you think they still have a way to go?
I think that they're on the precipice of elite, but it goes back to the Nick Saban question. What is elite when Nick Saban is on the schedule every year? What is elite? It's, at LSU, we know what it is. It's Joe Burrow and Ed Ogeron winning a national title. It's a program where Les Miles could win a national title, not just Nick Saban. Elite to them is national championship level. So I do think that they're getting closer. And I believe Brian Kelly to be such a good CEO of a program that he's going to get the talent there, and they're going to be knocking on the door. I don't know if it's this year, but they're going to be knocking on the door soon enough. It's very antiseptic at times, the way he runs the program. It just feels like, he's the type of guy who hires good people and just kind of lets them do their job, and he just oversees everything that's happening. You don't point to one area of his teams. It's not like Beamer ball, where a Frank Beamer coach team or Shane Beamer coach team, they're going to have great special teams. You can't really say exactly what a Brian Kelly coach team does exceptionally well or what his personality is, like a Josh Heupel, and what his offense is going to look like. But when I think about Brian Kelly, I think about the guy at the top of the skyscraper in the boardroom that's really good at bringing his people along, hiring people, being very disciplined with them, demanding excellence from them, and allowing them to do their job, and they do it at a very high level. He did that at Notre Dame. I think he's going to do that at Florida State, and it's gotten pretty good pretty quick. So we'll see if they can capitalize this year.
Around SEC Media Days, Chad, at the Outkick party, I was talking to everybody about the new stadium and the first game of the season. So Tennessee and Virginia are at Nissan Stadium tomorrow. And I think about that, and I'm like, okay, how much would it cost You know, how much money is Tennessee going to make from playing at Nissan Stadium? And how much money would it cost for us in the new stadium, the Dome Stadium, in order to have games like that every year to kick off the season? You know, I'm going to the Aflac Classic here at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They always open the year with college football games that opening weekend at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Sometimes it's a much better game than Louisville and Georgia Tech, but there's always a game. Do you think it's possible that our new stadium could do that, you know, kind of like this Tennessee-Virginia game that's going to be played tomorrow?
I think this new stadium, it could do anything. I think it's going to host every type of event, NCAA Final Four, Super Bowl, WrestleManias, enormous concerts. It could certainly do like the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic, you know, in Atlanta for years, where they host a big game every year. Let me pose this question to you, though. Would it be better to have a rotation of trying to get two different programs in a big game? Or, and also this, you know how Tennessee and Alabama would play for years in Birmingham, and Alabama would play one or two games in Birmingham? What if Tennessee, because the mid-state is so important to them, decided to play one non-conference game a year in Nashville? I don't think it'll happen because they don't want to pull games away from Neyland Stadium and eliminate that revenue. But I do wonder what that would look like, because I was surprised when this game sold out. I thought it might sell out, but it'd be closer to kickoff. But when it sold out, 5-6 days in advance, I was a little bit surprised. I wonder if there'd be a law of diminishing returns, and the opponent would have a lot to do with it. And if Tennessee played a good non-conference opponent every year in Nashville, what that would look like, maybe on top of another game, featuring two different programs. I think the possibilities are endless for this city and this stadium once it's completed.
I think that they'd have to kind of do it like the Chick-fil-A model, where they don't have Georgia there every year. You know, some years it's Auburn, who's very, very close to Atlanta. You know, a couple of years it's been Ole Miss, who's played in that game. And I think that they'd have to kind of do it that way. Tennessee, I've always told people, Tennessee, Notre Dame, first game at the new stadium. That I think that should be the first, and that's the first game, period. But I do think Tennessee should be in the rotation, where every 4 years or something like that, they start the year at the new stadium, get Alabama in a rotation there, I think maybe trying to think of who else would be really, really popular in the area. Ole Miss would probably be pretty
Alabama
popular.
Would be huge. Yeah, Alabama would be a great one to have there.
And in an off year? Like in an off year where, we're not going to be able to get the best game. Kentucky might not be the end of the world to have them play there. I think that it's workable.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the possibilities of what all could be done with that stadium. But, again, I was surprised to see this Tennessee-Virginia game sell out because of the point spread. And it's going to be 85-90% Tennessee fans at the game. So excited to see that atmosphere tomorrow. I know you're looking forward to that atmosphere tonight in Atlanta for Louisville, Georgia Tech. I'll be watching that one as well.
I kind of wonder if Georgia Tech has any fans.
I've always wondered that. When people say that Georgia Tech is appealing for a conference, it always interests me. Because on one hand, I think, it's in downtown Atlanta, this major metropolitan area. I think the 5th or 6th biggest market in the country. You got tons of high school talent there. You can get great players at Georgia Tech. It's a good academic school. But, what's the fan base like? What really is the strength of the brand? Because in that area, it's Georgia, Georgia, Georgia. The Bulldogs reign supreme. So I've always wondered, what exactly is the value of the Georgia Tech brand in the market of Atlanta? You'll see it firsthand tonight. You'll be able to come back with a report with us next week.
Chad Withrow, great stuff from Outkick, as always, presented by BetUS. And, Chad, enjoy the holiday weekend. And when I say holiday for you, I know I'm talking about the opening of college football.
Absolutely. One of the greatest weekends of the sports year. I'm excited about it. Hope everyone out there has a great weekend.
Stillman and Company, we roll along on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Rebound, try out in front, and Saros covers it up.
All the big stories.
Andrew Burnett reportedly hired as the next head coach of the Predators.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Checkered flag is in the air.
Comparing goalies to running backs.
46-27 Vanderbilt.
Does this group of players need more?
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Don't miss a minute of football action while getting up close and personal to the future stars of the PGA Tour. Join Penn Entertainment on site at the Simmons Bank Open, promoting pin play, and their sports online betting platform. Stop by their tent in the Arctic Tailgate Village during the tournament to learn more and have a chance to win some prizes and giveaways. Must be 21 or older and in Tennessee. For problem gambling support, call Tennessee Redline 1-800-899-9789.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to hide?
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
You know what's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway. Now here's Jim Mitchell.
Our fleet vehicle program is a great benefit to all the fleet companies in Nashville. We are able to get their vehicle back on the road a lot quicker than the downtime of most dealers and most general repair shops, simply because we have the transmissions available. We're able to put priority on their vehicles to get them back on the road quickly.
You know what's going to happen, and when your car needs service or repair, remember Mitchell's Mr. Transmission on Gallatin Road, just north of Briley Parkway.
Vanderbilt Commodore fans, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, along with 94.9 The Fan, is your new home for broadcast of games and the Commodore Hour on Monday evenings. Catch all the action for football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball all season long. Go Doors!
Green right, Fox 2 run, double catch. He takes you inside the huddle through the eyes of a quarterback.
Wide 85, thank you.
Catch ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck every Tuesday at noon as he breaks down the big stories in the NFL.
Buffalo, maybe Miami.
And with the Tennessee Titans.
The Titans might be like, we're interested in a 1-year, $1 million contract.
Tim Hasselbeck is on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Eli Gold, voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Great stuff with Chad earlier. So now is the moment of truth on the program. And we do have last year's, what we looked up last year, where I said, okay, let's make our predictions. Last year's predictions, I had Alabama, Georgia, Utah, and Ohio State in the college football playoff. Now, I guess I don't know if we made the official because I don't have it written down here anywhere. So, I assume that I would have picked Alabama to win the national championship, just knowing me. I highly doubt that I picked Georgia, who ended up winning it, though I did technically have Georgia in there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it all out there. Again, I have Alabama at 13-0 after winning the SEC championship. I have Georgia at 12-1. So this year, the top four for the college football playoff, I have as Alabama, Michigan, who, as I told you earlier, I've talked to some people who seem to think that this Michigan team might be one of the best teams. The people that have seen the Michigan team play say this might be one of the best Michigan teams they've ever seen. So Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, because they don't want to have a repeat. So they would have the repeat of Alabama and Georgia if Alabama and Georgia are undefeated and Alabama beats Georgia. They'd have that repeat. They don't want to have that. And then USC 4 in the Sugar Bowl. So Alabama and USC in the Sugar Bowl, though, boy, I really wanted to put Michigan versus USC in the final Rose Bowl before they end up, both going to the Big Ten and playing each other every year. But I guess that's probably another reason why they'd be better off to do it this way. So, in the Sugar Bowl, I have USC over Alabama. That's right. Take that, Caroline, who said, I'm a Saban Bobo. Take that one. I have USC over Alabama. Caleb Williams is the type of quarterback that Nick Saban hates, and I don't think that this year's surprise Heisman winner, I'm going to say, is Ty Simpson of Alabama. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but you Tennessee fans, when you thought you might get Ty Simpson, you were talking about him like that. I do not think that Alabama will be able to keep up with Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. I've got Georgia over Michigan, only because, well, quite frankly, I'll pick Michigan to win a college football playoff game when I see it with my own eyes. So Georgia beats Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and what is, I think, going to be the last real Rose Bowl, because I don't know what happens to the Rose Bowl now that the Pac-12 has been completely decimated by the Big Ten and the Big 12. National championship, USC and Alabama. Excuse me, I already had that. USC and Georgia in the national championship game, NRG Stadium in Houston. USC wins the national championship. And I know that in college football, the best quarterback doesn't always win. Peyton Manning didn't win a national championship, but T. Martin did. Josh Heupel won a national title. Ken Dorsey won a national title. Craig Krenzel won a national title. Andrew Luck didn't. Jacob Coker won a national title, and Bryce Young didn't. And yes, Stetson Bennett won a national championship. But I always just, in this instance, and Georgia has been great, and they're going for the three-peat, and I think there's a part of me that just doesn't want to pick Georgia to three-peat for some reason, that just thinks, okay, this is the year that they get slowed up. I also, Lincoln Riley, what's hard for me to pick USC is that Lincoln kept getting to the playoffs all those years at Oklahoma, and he never really got past the big boys, right? Like he had Jalen Hurts, and they ran into Alabama, and they lost. And he had Kyler Murray, and they lost. Actually, he had Jalen Hurts, they ran into LSU. He had Kyler Murray, they ran into Alabama, and they lost. So why will this be different that with Caleb Williams, he'll beat both Nick Saban and Kirby Smart? But it's just a gut feeling that I have. And the executives at Fox will be very, very happy. So USC over Georgia in the national championship game. Put it down, the official 2023 Jared Stillman predictions. Speaking of predictions, Six-Pack Picks is next on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Saturday, college football is back as Tennessee takes on Virginia at Nissan Stadium here in Nashville. Our coverage begins at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Some people put off things that need doing. Not you. Harbor Freight knows you're a today's the day kind of person. And I'm on it kind of person. A bring it kind of person. So if you're rolling up your sleeves today and you don't want to overpay for tools, you're a Harbor Freight kind of person. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
What's up, everybody? This is Teron Davenport here from my friends at Superbook Sports. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door, just a dedicated team of the best odd makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code TDInsider. So bet with the best and use the promo code TDInsider this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Men, this is Evan Bass for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. If you're suffering with erectile dysfunction or other sexual health issues, you need to know that there is no one-size-fits-all treatment because everyone's made differently. That's why our urologists and medical providers offer a broader array of treatment options and can even combine or adjust treatments for greater effectiveness. ED can result from aging, low testosterone, prostate issues, underlying medical conditions, and more. And understanding why you have ED is the first step in treating the condition. That's why you need to know your numbers and understand what other factors might be contributing, and then work with an expert to treat it. And that's where we shine. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we have protocols that are effective in nearly 90% of cases, which means we'll likely find the right treatment for you and you can get your sex life back. So call us. Your first appointment includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices to serve you, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
One is a legendary NFL wide receiver.
I gotta be prepared. I have to be ready.
One is a legendary Nashville voice.
You don't have to rely on carrying the ball 250 to 300 times.
And the other has been a legendary trash talker on the playground since the 4th grade.
Nobody is a Pro Bowler on day 1 of rookie minicamp.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, it's a Fireball Hot Take Friday, and it is the first weekend of the year of six-pack picks. So, Ian, do you know how we did last season?
I do not, actually.
Okay, that's
I
all
don't
right.
have those off the top of my head.
I think I did pretty crappy last year, so let's just go ahead and forget that anyways. All right, let's get to the games this year. Where are we starting?
Okay, we will start tonight. Big game, 6:30, ESPN in Atlanta. University of Louisville versus Georgia Tech. Louisville minus 7.5.
Okay, so as you heard me earlier talking to Chad Withrow about this, I am scared to death about this game. And I am going to the game tonight, and I am excited, and it is the beginning of the Jeff Brom era. Now, Brent Key is the head coach at Georgia Tech. I bet you didn't know that one. And so I am nervous. I am nervous because we should kick the crap out of Georgia Tech. And yet, at the same time, so many times in my life, I've gotten excited about one of my teams doing well. I mean, hell, you guys see it with the Titans all the time. You guys see it basically every week. And so I am going to take Louisville minus the 7.5. I do think, and I was talking to somebody there about this last week, I do think with Jeff Brom as the coach, and he went out there and raided the transfer portal, and we might be pretty good. Like, our schedule, this is the year where the ACC's gotten rid of the divisions. So our schedule outside of Notre Dame and at NC State, we probably should win every single game. And then there's Kentucky at the end of the year. We'll see. But, I mean, Louisville may be competing in the ACC championship, if for no other reason because the schedule's easy. And so I expect us to win the way Jeff Brom puts up the points. I expect us to win something like 54-17. And so that would easily cover the 7.5. But the pessimist inside of me is nervous. I'll take Louisville minus 7.5.
Okay, moving on here to Saturday. We will start right here in Nashville, 11 a.m., ABC at Nissan Stadium. Virginia versus Tennessee. The Vols are minus 4 touchdowns, minus 28 for Tennessee.
Boy, 28's a lot, even for Tennessee. And, of course, that game, by the way, right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. 28 points. Boy, that's a lot. They did win rather handedly against Clemson in the Orange Bowl with Joe Milton as the quarterback. They did smoke Vanderbilt with Joe Milton as the quarterback. Joe Milton's had an entire offseason as the quarterback. The 28's too much. The 28's too. Give me Virginia plus 28. I don't think UVA is going to come anywhere near close to winning this game. I do think Tennessee should cover the 28, but it's just a lot for the first game. And I do wonder, too, they paid that Nico Amaliava. They paid him a fortune. And so it's like, okay, if they're up by 20 late in the game, do they put him in there or do they call the dogs off? Or 28's just a lot. And even as I'm talking it through right now, there's a part of me that kind of wants to go back the other way and take Tennessee minus 28. I'm going to take UVA plus 28 on this one. I certainly think Tennessee will win. But, man, 28 points, that's a lot of points. Give me the Hooves.
All right, we will continue. 11 a.m. on Saturday. This game on Fox. Coach Prime in his Colorado debut. Going to TCU to take on the Horned Frogs. TCU minus 20.5.
So I think this one's pretty easy. I'm going to take TCU minus the 20.5. And first off, I think Deion Sanders, I think there's a big disconnect here. Like, I think Deion thinks this is going to be as easy as it was when he went to Jackson State, paid for a team that was much better than everybody else in the SWAC. Well, TCU is the defending national runner-up. The other schools in the Big 12, they try hard at football too. So it's not like where Deion's coming from. I also think there's going to be some chemistry issues because, again, it's an entirely new team. And I also think that Deion has spent so much time making the story about Deion that I just think his team's going to come out flat. I think TCU, they'll have a new quarterback because Max Duggan is obviously on the Chargers practice squad now. But TCU, Sonny Dykes, he's a good coach. There may be a little bit of a hangover for TCU having the unprecedented success, the unexpected success that they had last year. But at the same time, I feel confident enough about the program that TCU has. So I think TCU rolls in this game. And I really think Colorado's going to be bad. I really think this Deion Sanders thing, this is like a great experiment in college football. Can you really just flip a roster upside down in 1 year? And I just don't think Deion's the right guy to do it. I think it'll be a very tough year for Colorado. They were in such a bad spot. I'll take TCU minus the 20.5, even though I have no idea who their quarterback is going to be or who their quarterback is supposed to be.
Okay, moving on to ABC here, 2:30 in the afternoon. Boise State at Washington.
Woof.
Washington is a close spread considering for week 1. Washington minus 14.
Is that a close spread? 14 this week is considered a close spread?
Kind of, yeah.
Goodness gracious.
When you have Vols minus 28, TCU minus 20, Alabama versus Middle, some other spreads here are pretty high.
I mean, I'm going to take Washington minus the 14. I don't know anything about either team other than Michael Penix Jr. is the quarterback, and he's on Mel Kiper's big board, and he's kind of a big point scorer. Plus the game's at Washington, and traditionally, it is incredibly hard to play at Washington. I think that's been something that's been talked about for years about these Pac-12 teams, like USC when they were good, they'd go up to Washington, and they'd lose to Jake Locker. So I'll take Washington minus the 14. Boise State's fallen off the map, haven't they? Brian Harsin did a nice job when he was there. He goes to Auburn. He looks like a clown. But then the rest of, Boise State, I don't think I've heard of them since. So what was once a very, very proud program and a very, very interesting program, I don't think I've heard anything from Boise State for a while. So if they're 14-point dogs against Washington, and I think Washington's a top 25 team, I'll take Washington. I'll lay the 14. Plus, the reality is, and you'll never hear this from, the handicappers who never get anything wrong. The reality is, when in doubt, take the favorite. Especially in college football. Especially a home favorite. I'll take Washington minus the 14. I do feel like some of these games are going to be a lot like the Notre Dame game on Saturday, where it's just a butt kicking. So I'll go Washington minus 14.
Okay, a couple of close game spreads here to end. We will start 6:30, ABC. Battle of the Carolinas here. North Carolina versus South Carolina. UNC minus 2.5.
Okay, so I will take UNC. The game. Where is the game? Charlotte?
It is Charlotte, yes.
Okay,
Bank of America Stadium.
I will take UNC minus 2.5. I thought that Drake May, I watched their bowl game last year, and I thought Drake May looked every bit the part of a future NFL quarterback. I mean, he's got some serious Justin Herbert when I see him play. The other thing is, I don't trust Spencer Rattler. I know Spencer Rattler had that big game last year against Tennessee, and I know that South Carolina has this unbelievable amount of self-appointed hype. I saw Shane Beamer, the coach, came out, and he said something like, last year nobody was talking about us. This year everybody's talking about us. And I'm like, who the hell's talking about you? Who's talking about South Carolina? South Carolina's probably a respectable team. I think I like Mac Brown as a coach more than I like Shane Beamer, even though I don't know if Mac is all there sometimes at this point in his career. But I'm ultimately going to take the quarterback, and it's Drake May. He's a better quarterback than Spencer Rattler. I know Rattler had the Tennessee game, but Rattler to me has always kind of just been somewhat of a guy. So when I've got Drake May, who is a dude in what is basically a neutral site game, I'm going to take North Carolina minus the 2.5. It would not surprise me if this is a close game that North Carolina pulls away from in the fourth quarter.
Okay, and our final game this week will be Sunday night, 6:30 on ABC. The Fighting Caroline Fentons in LSU versus Florida State in Orlando. LSU minus 2.5.
So I really thought there was a chance that when you read off this spread that you were going to tell me that Florida State was favored because the game's in Orlando. Last year the game was in New Orleans. So it's the neutral site, but more kind of like a home-ish kind of game. I'm going to take LSU minus 2.5. And the reason I'm going to take LSU is because I think Florida State is fake. I think they are phony. And it did kind of take me aback for a second when Chad said that he thinks if Florida State wins this game, and Florida State did win the game last year with what I thought was incredible opening night jitters from the Brian Kelly era. But if they do win this game, Florida State may be headed to the college football playoff. I just don't think Florida State's that good. I just don't think Jordan Travis is that good. I have never been a Jordan Travis fan. He quarterbacked at Louisville. Last year I went to the game, Florida State, Louisville, in Louisville. Louisville, I thought probably should have won the game if our coach wasn't such a bozo. And so I'm not a huge Florida State guy. I don't believe in him this year. I don't believe in Mike Norvell. So I think LSU's going to win. I do believe in Brian Kelly. I don't like Brian Kelly, but I do believe in Brian Kelly. So even though it'll be essentially kind of a road game, I think LSU's going to have a ton of fans in Orlando. That's a beautiful stadium down there, and I think LSU's going to win the ball game. And I think LSU, go ahead and write this down, I think LSU is going to win convincingly on Sunday night. Boy, I hope Caroline doesn't. I bet she doesn't enjoy hearing that. But that's okay. They'll win convincingly on Sunday night. The return of six-pack picks. Now, next week, six-pack picks will have NFL picks. That'll do it for us. We're out of here. Stillman and Company. We'll all see you all to start the Titans week against the Saints Tuesday at 2.